Ooh, wow, just one drum beat and it got hushed. I like that. Ah, Shabbat. Can't come soon enough. Now, is that my microphone? Because I don't like the sound of that. Making that weird sound? Hopefully not. So I've been really feeling into this opening kavanah, this melody and these words. I've been really feeling it as a bit of a mantra, a focus phrase, since I learned it a few weeks ago. It's by two Jewish composers, singers, songwriters, Anat Hochberg and Ali Halpert, and it's really helping me. So maybe it will help you just to connect to the meaning of what community is. So it goes like this, 3 words. I'm not alone, 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 keep it going, I'm not, I've forgotten for a minute who I belong to, I'm not alone, the mama, earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain, I'm not alone, for me the world was created, I'm not alone, to dust I will return, I'm not alone, try it with us, I'm not alone, 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 I'm not, I forgot for a minute who I belong to, the mama earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain, I'm not alone, for me the world was created, I'm not alone, to dust I will return. Just breathing into that for a moment. I'm not alone, neither are you. You can see each other around the room, you can feel community. If nothing else, you can feel the warmth of the people right next to you. I'm not alone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So I want to welcome everybody to our service tonight and just give a few logistical announcements. The first is that hopefully everyone's grabbed a prayer book on their way in. If you haven't, Marty Baum is our usher, our president actually is our usher, and he will make sure you've got everything you need. We've got large print prayer books available on the right, hearing assisted devices in the office through the back. If you need bathrooms, they're outside to the right, though all gender and handicap accessible bathrooms are through the office toward the back. If for some reason tonight you need an emergency exit, of course, there's the exit you came in. But there's also an exit here, as well as exits through the back as well. It's been a week.
It's been a week.
I feel like each and every Shabbat, I begin Shabbat by essentially saying that. But it's been a week. And I feel like I'm holding on to a lot, as I feel like a lot of people are holding on to a lot. A lot of fear, a lot of trepidation, a lot of unsurety about what future is going to hold.
Some.
Shabbat is meant a little bit to be a respite from that. A chance to be with community, to be with liturgy, to be with family, to be with God. And so I want to invite you to just really feel what's going on for you right now. Feel what's in your body, feel where the tension is, feel what's making you nervous or scared or anxious. Just try to breathe it out for a second. We're going to move into our service and allow the liturgy to wash over you. Allow the melody to penetrate your heart. Allow yourself to just be present in this moment. There's a lot of unsurety, a lot of what ifs, a lot of unsteadiness about what future times will hold. And I'm just going to invite us to try to be as present in this moment, present in this day as possible. We're going to turn to page 24, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei, Malachei, Asharet, Malachei, Elyon. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei, Asharet, Malachei, Elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Boachem Leshalom Boachem Leshalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Baruchuni Leshalom Malachei HaShalom Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh
So in a moment, we're going to move into formally welcoming Shabbat with the lighting of our candles and with Kiddush. And in honor of that, we've got two different families celebrating two different simchas at two different times tomorrow. And so I'm going to invite up Ben and his family and Jakey and his family, immediate family, up to the bima so that they can participate and be part of the lighting of our candles and the blessing of our wine tonight.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness remind us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives.
Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinhelanu zikaron lama'aseh bereshit ki hu yom tehila limikraye kodesh zeher litziat mitzrayim kivanu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabat kodshcha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat.
You may have a little sip. L'chaim and Mazel Tov to Ben and Jakey and their families. Thanks, guys. Well done. You don't have to finish it.
We're going to move forward in our prayer book now. We're on page 12, Lechu Neranena.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai, l'Adonai ranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Naria, everybody, Naria, Naria, letzor yishenu, nekadmat panav, b'toda, b'toda, Naria, Naria, letzor yishenu. Bizmirot Naria lo, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai, l'Adonai, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai, lechu neranena, l'Adonai.
We move forward now. We're on page 20, Lechadodi.
Chadodi, elai, elai, elai,
Ya la 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 la, likrat kala.
ya la 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 la,
B'nei Shabbat.
b'nei Shabbat, nekave, ya la 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 la, chadodi, elai, elai, elai,
Ya la 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 la, likrat kala.
ya la 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 la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat, nekave,
Shamor v'zachor.
Verse 5, Shabbat, Nikah, Bilah. If you are able, we ask you please rise as we face the entrance and we welcome the Sabbath bride. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam v'simcha, uv'tzola. Am segura Boi chala
Standing, page 28.
Together.
Together, page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 32.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת.
תורה ומצוות,
אימון משפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגד יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה.
ואהבתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך את אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה
אשר אנוכי מצווך
היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בעם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך,
וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, היו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני
אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני
אדוני אלוהיכם.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אמת.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40.
This is our song of freedom, and I know for a fact that they had shaky eggs at the sea of reeds. 1, 2, here we go. Ya ira ira ya ya la la. Ya ira 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 ya la la la. Ya la ira la ya la. Ya la 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 ya ya la 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 la. Here we go, everyone can sing. Kamo kabai madonai. Kamo kame darbakod. Ratehi oto. יפדה אדוני את יעקב, וגיילו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, קהל ישראל.
Page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts, eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will.
Na 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 na. לשלום, לשלום, לשלום. והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים, לשלום, 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 לשלום. נה 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 סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We turn to page 46 as we rise together, and after this opening meditation, move in silence through page 62.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. world is built from chesed. If we want it to become the world that we know it can be, we have no other alternative. Olam chesed yibane, yararai, yararai, olam chesed yibane, olam chesed yibane, yararai, yararai, olam chesed yibane, yararai, yararai, olam chesed yibane, I must build this world. I will build it. I will build this world from love. And you must build this world, and you must build this world from love. And if we build this world, and if we build this world from love, then God will build this world, then God will build this world from love. God will build this world through us. Once more. Olam chesed yibane, olam chesed yibane.
As we do each Shabbat, we had a special prayer for Israel, a prayer that speaks about the many different prongs of what we are all feeling. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we ask that you bless the state of Israel and all of Israel's inhabitants. Makor Chaim, source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return home. Protect them and guide them. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Holy and Blessed One, show Israel's leaders your paths so they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep their hearts from hardening. Adonai Poked, God who remembers, it has been 545 days, and there are still 59 people being held in Gaza, half of whom are thought to be alive. Among them are Avinatan Or, 32, Eden Alexander, 20, Matan Zanguker, 25, Alon Ohel, 24, Guy Gilboa Dalal, 23, Eviatar David, 24, Bipin Joshi, 24, and Matang Engrest, 21. Matira Surim, freer of captives, return all those who are kidnapped to their homes, without the spilling of more innocent blood, without any more souls being tarnished by horrific acts. Baal Harachamim, master of compassion, help us hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people, of all the residents of the state of Israel, while also holding the humanity and the dignity of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, remind us of your ways. Spread over us a shelter of peace and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall never again know war.
There are so many people that need help in healing, body, mind, and soul. So our hearts are open for all of those, whether they're on our list here, whether they're in our hearts, whether they're in someone else's heart that is someplace far away from us. We turn to page 253. Mishaberak avotenu v'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, bless those in need of healing with refuah lecha, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Tonight, I want to let you in. Did I knock over Cantor's water? No. Tonight, I want to let you in a little bit on some challenges that I've been having, deciding how to act in this moment that we are living in. And I want to talk a little bit about the challenge of figuring out actually how to act in this current moment. I was sent over the course of this week 3 different opportunities for either letters or speaking engagements to address some of the things that are happening in the news, some of the current events. And each one, though I'm sure in hindsight I'm going to look at them and say, you know what, these decisions are inconsequential, felt not only momentous, but agonizing. And I want to explain why that is. And to do that, I want to talk about this week's Torah portion and really the next few Torah portions. Because in the Jewish tradition, there's a lot of different arbiters of morality, right? In the times of the prophets, it was the prophets, the people who stood up and spoke truth to power and spoke about the big ideals of Judaism. And later on in history, my favorite group, it's the rabbis, the people who are not like me, the ones from 2,000 years ago who wrote the Talmud, who are constantly making messy compromises and struggling and trying to figure out what's right. Then, of course, you've got people like the mystics who are making decisions based on what they think is going to unite them with the cosmic God, right? But actually, of the leaders of the community in the next few portions, our spotlight shifts to a group which we are calling the Kohanim, the priests. And in fact, the way that the priests walk through the world is really interesting because for them, their profession dictates their way of being. To be a good priest means that you have to find the right answer. You have to figure out the recipe, the algorithm. You have to know what to do. Someone comes to you and they have made a mistake. You sacrifice the right animal in the right way on the right day. You burn the right parts of those animals and you leave over other parts. You drain the right amount of blood and you pour the right amount of blood on the altar. And if you do all of those things correctly, you can walk away knowing that you've done well. There's a kind of surety to how to be in the world if you are a priest. And sometimes I wish that for some of those thorny ethical ideas in our world today, that I had the kind of algorithm that the priests have. But I'm not always given that luxury, in part because ethical living doesn't just involve putting some things into a computer and it's spitting out what you should do. It involves weighing the right thing up against other right things, and eventually trying to figure out which right wins. Right? Ethical living is rarely right versus wrong. It is almost always right versus right in different kinds of ratios. And to sit there and live in this world means taking into account all that is around you. And so this week, for example, I struggled immensely with 2 sign-on letters that were sent to me. And by the way, I signed each one. One of them was to the left of me. One of them was to the right of me, both of which I agonized over whether to sign. There was one letter that was sent to me by an organization called Trua. And to our students, I'm going to get technical here and throw around a lot of names. The adults are going to know what I'm talking about, but I apologize for a moment to our youth who are here. An organization called Trua about Mahmoud Khalil and about whether or not Mahmoud Khalil should be free, whether or not Mahmoud Khalil should get due process. And I read that letter very carefully. And the challenge with the letter is that it didn't say everything I wanted to say. It didn't come out as strongly against him as I would have wanted to. It didn't emphasize as much the due process as I would have wanted to see. And it talked about just a blanket kind of freedom, whereas for me, I would have wanted to see a little bit more about allowing the legal system in the correct way to do what it needed to do. But I thought about it, and I realized it was the only sign-on letter that spoke to that issue, period. And there are no sign-on letters for some of the other things that are keeping me up at night. I went to Tufts. So what happened at Tufts only recently has kept me up even more than anything else. But with the lack of that letter to sign, this letter felt like my only avenue. So even if it pushed me in a certain direction and found myself a little bit outside of that letter, I signed it nonetheless because I felt like in the climate that we were in, and it was a rabbinic sign-on letter, it was the only avenue that I could take. I couldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If I was a priest, I wouldn't have signed it. But being the rabbi that I am, I understand that actually sometimes ethical living doesn't involve just an algorithm that spits it back. You have to forgive yourself and let yourself be a little bit outside and hope that if someone does disagree, you'll be able to explain yourself to them. And then there's the other letter that I signed today. It was a letter about Andy Kim, and it was a letter about Andy Kim's vote being one of 13 senators who voted against giving arms that were already promised to Israel. And I thought really hard about it. And in fact, I read his statement. And I have to say, I agreed wholeheartedly with everything Andy Kim wrote in his statement about the current moment, about the war, about the ceasefire should have held, about the fact that there are innocent people who are perishing, about all of what he said. The only thing I disagreed with him was the therefore at the end of the letter. I would still have voted to give the arms. But in seeing that, there was a rabbinic letter of all the rabbis in New Jersey that went around castigating him for his vote. A freshman senator who we don't really fully have a relationship with, taking him to task for why he voted that way. And as I read the letter, I realized the letter lacked the nuance that I wanted to see. The letter lacked the tone that I wanted to see. Whereas I agreed with everything that Andy Kim wrote in his tone and disagreed with his therefore, I agreed with the therefore of the letter, but disagreed with everything in its tone. And I had to ultimately figure out, do I sign? And I thought really hard, and I agonized, and I called colleagues. And as I watched the sign-on letter fill in with other rabbis who were basically like me, you may not know this, but in the New Jersey area, there's been this generational shift of rabbis that you're looking at like a 40-year-old rabbi who tends to have the politics I do. That's basically most of the congregations around here are now hiring me's. And I was noticing the me's filling up on that list. And I realized actually what it would have meant for me to be absent in that. And at the same time, for the fact that I pushed myself a little to the left. And if I had pushed myself a little bit to the right, it would have involved a kind of counterbalance in that moment. And so ultimately, I signed a letter that I felt as uncomfortable signing as the other letter, but felt like for pragmatic reasons, it made the most amount of sense. Being off itself was a statement that I couldn't just claim it was because I didn't see. And so that's the challenge, right? Often I mention that ethical living is the challenge between right and right, but the problem is that you have to make a choice. There's a very famous scene in the Talmud where two different rabbis are arguing, Hillel and Shammai. You might have heard of them because they're always at odds with one another. And eventually, their students are fighting, and God appears and says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. Both Hillel and Shammai are the words of the living God. But then God finishes that, but says, but you probably should rule in accordance with Hillel, because he listens to the side of Shammai and he's kinder. Now, there's a lot to be said about why God makes the decision God makes, but what's really important is the fact that God has to make a decision. The kind of stuff they argue about is zero sum. Are you going to light the Hanukkah candles, 1 candle the first night, 2 candles the second, 3 the third, up to 8? Or, as Shammai said, you're going to start with 8 and diminish down 7, 6, 5, 4, symbolizing the oil as it's used up for those 8 days. Or Hillel and Shammai disagree of how many fringes should be on the tallis. Is it 3 strings tied over to make 6, or 4 strings tied over to make 8? At the end of the day, you can't have both. Sometimes law becomes mutually exclusive, in part because a practice needs to exist. As much as there can be multiple truths, as much as there can be 2 rights, you have to put a stake in the sand, as uncomfortable as that feels. And in this time, speaking out is a decision, and staying quiet is a decision. And you can't claim that one is the easier way. Sitting out a fight is as consequential as entering into the fight, and knowing which one to do is incredibly hard. And that's why I look at these priests in the Torah and I wish that I had the surety of them. I wish I had that algorithm. I wish, to use my third example, when I was offered a speaking slot at one of the protests that are happening in the area. You may know there's tons of protests happening in this area called the hands-off protests. And I was given the opportunity to talk. And in fact, I was given a slot that was going to be like near senators and House members, and it was going to be prestigious for me and prestigious for the congregation. And I was going to get a chance to say my piece. And look, I think there's a lot wrong with this world right now. And I was going to get a chance to really address that. And then I thought about it. And I thought to myself, what is my obligation here? Yes, my job is to speak toward justice. But how do I draw that line as a nonprofit organization, 501c3, right? That's supposed to speak for all of my congregants, some of whom are Democrats and some of whom are Republicans. And I paused and I said, what is the nature of these protests? And I drew a line between protesting an issue and protesting a person. And I believe, by the way, it is our job to speak out for immigrants, to speak out for racial justice, to speak out for the LGBTQ community, to speak out for democracy, to speak out for free speech, to speak out for many of the ideals that all of us hold deeply. But ultimately, when I looked at the flyers for these speakers and I looked at the descriptions, it felt like it was not standing for things, but rather standing against someone. And so I ultimately decided to sit this one out. Because although I added my names to those particular letters, it felt like for me personally, as the rabbi of this community, it did not make sense for me to speak. These decisions are hard. And I bring this up and I take you through my thinking because every single one of us is struggling with these decisions in your life, and they are as hard for you as they are for me. Ethical living in this time, knowing when to stay silent, knowing when to speak, knowing when to raise your hand, and knowing when to sit down. knowing who to side with, knowing what coalitions to enter into, understanding that nothing is perfectly going to represent you is really difficult. But I want to return to those letters for a second, because I looked at those names filling up on each of those 2 letters, and I said to myself, this is really lonely. These are the only ways that I can speak out toward the things I care about, and my voice is not seen here. And at the same time, I have to remind myself that I bet there's a lot of other people who think like me and sign those letters just like I did, holding their nose, holding their tongue, and maybe thinking to themselves that they also can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Just because you can't get in someone else's head doesn't mean the zero sum that they do doesn't involve the nuance that you bring when you put that stake in the sand. But the only way you know that is to engage in dialogue with your neighbor. Someone whose name is on a letter you don't like might be closer to you than you think. They just decided to put their stake in the sand in a different way. And someone who's off a letter that you signed might also feel the same way too. This is the moment of conflicting opinion. This is the moment of trying to figure out what is right for you. These questions are difficult because coupled with what is right are all those other messy, pragmatic concerns of what does this mean for my ability to speak out in the future? What are my friends going to think? How is my community going to react? Am I going to be able to speak out later if I make this decision now? Who am I allying with? Where does my power lie? But all of those questions are as central to the question of ethical living as the question of what is right and what is wrong. And if you allow yourself to make those messy decisions, I promise you, if you give yourself a little bit of love and a little bit of compassion, you'll find that you can live with the decisions even as you don't know whether they are right. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to rise, page 282 for Elena.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. Our thoughts go out to those who we have loved and who we have lost. As I recite the name of your loved one, I'll invite you to rise, honoring their memory. This Shabbat, we recall the following individuals: Max Edelman, Lynn Adler, Nan Barkun, Kenton Benedict, Harold Berman, Sanny Haim Daniels, Stan Fader, Sam Feingold, Irving Fishbein, Dora Forum, Bess Forum, Dave Fox, Yetta Friedman, Janet Gilberg, Iris Greenstein, Rudolph Gross, Keza Kalmeyer, Aaron Kaplan, Leo Katz, Leo Kolinsky, Rebecca Marcus, Frida Meinhardt, Martha Newman, Lottie Nyman, Benjamin Opatot, Quentin Palmer, Sylvia Pimes, Ida Radish, Dora Sachs, Harold Schutzman, Charles Singman, Burl Sondak, David Spencer, Lillian Stein, Dorothy Sugarman, Nona Teichman, Eleanor Levin Trachtenberg, Vincent Urzo, Maurice Weiser, Patricia Woodward, Julia Yassin, Stephen Zeisel, and Yitzchak Zimmerspitz. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning, Elliot Eisman, brother-in-law of Rachel Post, Shirley Hannah Gallant, mother of Debbie Gallant, Melanie Mertzel, sister of Nancy Mertzel, and Jarvis Tim Allen, grandfather of Melanie Robbins. In addition to those names I mentioned, if you're observing a yard site that may not have been on this list, or you are within your 1-year period of mourning, I'll invite you to rise and share the name of your loved one. Page 294. We rise together. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ביומא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחי יכון וביום יכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה לשמי דקדושה בריחו. לעילה מן קור ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל וקושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. Please be seated. So before we move into our closing song, which is a reprise from our opening, the I'm Not Alone, which I actually didn't even realize, knowing this was our opening, the sense of loneliness of signing those letters and all of that. It's the perfect song.
It's right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a few announcements. So tomorrow morning, we are going to have, of course, Torah study at 8:30. Our services are at 10. We welcome Jakey to the Bima, and we congratulate him. And at 10:30 is our Wake Up Shabbat, our Tot service that happens in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we welcome Ben to the Bima and say congratulations to him and his family. In addition to that, other things going on, we have Passover coming up. So Monday is the deadline to register for Second Night Seder. If you'd like to join us for Second Night Seder, we'd love to see you there. It is a very mixed, multi-generational crowd that is coming. And so I have my work cut out for me. I was seeing who registered before I really planned this Seder to figure out. But I promise you, this is going to be a Seder that is great for octogenarians and nonagenarians, and a Seder that is great for little kids. And I will find out how to do that over the course of this week. In addition, we hope that you'll help us to make minyanim throughout the course of this Passover season. So we have services on Sunday morning of Passover, which is the first day services. We have services on the next Sunday morning, which is our 8th day services that include Yisker, the prayer over those who have died. And we hope that you'll help us. And then right afterwards, suddenly you think you're done, but then you've got Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom HaZikaron, and Yom HaShoah, which is Holocaust Remembrance Day, Israeli Memorial Day, and Israeli Independence Day, not in the Hebrew order that I just said. And we're going to have programming for all of that. We're actually very in the nascent stages. We're getting to it a little bit late for our big Yom HaAtzmaut program. Every year, even with the nuanced conversation that we want to have around Israel, we also want to be able to celebrate Israel just for a day, right? And allow ourselves really to just let loose and say, it's pretty miraculous that Israel exists. And so we're going to have that likely on the 27th in the afternoon and get some music and food. And in addition to that, Holocaust Remembrance Day is going to be that Wednesday before, Wednesday the 23rd. And actually, it moves around from church to synagogue each year, bouncing between the two. This year, the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House is hosting our Yom HaShoah commemoration. And so hopefully you can come to all of those things. We've got lots of other things going on. One other thing to plug is that on the 21st, our own Matt Platkin, who is a member of our congregation and also the Attorney General of New Jersey, is going to be coming here to be in conversation with Jim Axelrod, who is an amazing interviewer, to really just talk about this current moment. Matt has been, or Attorney General Platkin, has been on the cutting edge of many of the most important initiatives in this past number of months in terms of democracy, in terms of free speech, in terms of immigrant rights, in terms of all that. And he's going to talk about basically what's the place of states, what is his place in dealing with this current moment right now. So with that,
all so that we can feel less alone.
Indeed.
Right? It's super challenging, but here we go. I'm not alone. 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 I'm not. I forgot.
I'm not alone.
For a minute.
I'm not alone.
Who I belong to.
I'm not alone.
Mama Earth,
Not
the
alone.
wind and rain,
I'm not
the beauty and the
not
pain. I'm not
alone.
I'm not alone.
I'm not
For you, the world was
Not
created for each of us. I'm not alone.
I'm not
Just I
not
need
alone.
to.
I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
I'm not alone.
Not alone.
I'm not alone.
I'm not alone.
I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Come and not be alone together. I know.